Nah, I'm just kidding. I won't make you read for 30 minutes straight. I know, I'm super nice, aren't I? So, PLAVE law. It can be confusing, especially if you're new to PLAVE, or even if you're a long-time fan but just don't have the time to browse through all the law-related threads on Twitter. I get you. I am just like you. PLAVE's lore is quite fragmented, hidden in birthday kits, QR codes, and secret websites. So for the betterment of my own and also communal understanding of PLAVE's lore, I decided to create this video. Let's get started because we have a lot to cover. Before we start though, I have to make two things very clear. First, this video is not about the technology behind PLAVE. It's about the fictional world that their characters are from. I will not be discussing the real-world company or the people behind PLAVE members. There will be no explanation of PLAVE's lingo, like the names of their lines or any of the memes. I will only be explaining things that are relevant to their lore. Second, the lore is fictional. This didn't happen in real life, it's just fantasy. Now that any potential misunderstandings have been resolved, let's get started. Terra, Kylum, Asterum. You've probably heard these words thrown around here and there, but what exactly are they? Let's start with the planets that are relevant to the lore. Terra is Earth, this little fella right here. It's the planet that we, humans, live on. The name Terra comes from the Latin word terra, meaning earth. So far so good, pretty easy stuff, right? Now let's move on to the two fictional planets that exist in the PLAVEverse. The first one is Kylum. Its name is also likely Latin in origin, as the word Kylum means world or heavens. Kylum is where fictional characters created by humans reside, like characters from cartoons, manhwas, webtoons, and so on. The music video for Wait For You suggests that they each have their own areas and homes, as Yejun, Noah, and blissofplave are all in distinctly different locations. More on that in the character section coming up. Lastly, Asterum is a planet between Kylum and Earth. The name Asterum may have Latin roots, as Asta or Astrum in Latin means star, and combining these two words gives us Asterum. Asterum is an inorganic planet that had no life on its surface before PLAVE started living there. However, the sky of Asterum is known as the space of life, or vitae cubo, which is again most likely a combination of two Latin words, vitae meaning life and cubo meaning to die. So, life and death. But it also sounds similar to cube. You've probably already guessed which space I'm talking about. Correct, it's this one, the one where we see Hamin in the Wait For You music video. This is the place where the characters are born and die. When someone, say a writer or an artist, begins to create a character in their story, this character is born in vitae cubo, in the form of a cube. When the character receives enough love and recognition from the people of Terra, either through the serialization of their webtoon or the release of their animated series, their cube splits and forms a meteor. As the meteor descends to Kylum, the debris of the cube fragments from it, which are known as star shards and hold mysterious power, land in Asterum. We'll come back to them later. When the characters are forgotten by the people of Earth and fall into obscurity, they die. They disappear to return to their cube form in vitae cubo. PLAVE's 5 members are all protagonists of separate webtoons that were made by the same author but were cancelled and most likely removed at the author's request. Because their stories had stopped receiving love from people of Terra, the characters from them started to fade out of existence gradually, until only the main characters, the PLAVE members, were left, but they too were in danger of disappearing. Yejun is the protagonist of the author's first published webtoon, Today I Heal You, which is a fantasy webtoon that has been lost to time. It was serialized on a domestic portal site when webtoons were only beginning to gain popularity. In the 4-panel format, this healing webtoon depicts everyday life in a fantastical setting. Initially, it didn't attract much attention, but it gradually grew in popularity through word of mouth due to its unique world building. Noah is the protagonist of a webtoon called Heart of the Moon. It's a fantasy story that has also been lost to time. This work was published in the Amateur Writers Serialization section on the manhwa Korean comics platform. At that time, the A platform granted official serial rights to serial works on the top 5 recommended in the Amateur Writers section, and Heart of the Moon began its official serialization thanks to this grant. The precise time and cause for the serialization suspension are not yet known. Finally, both Bambi and Ina are the protagonists of a webtoon called Chroma Drift. Yes, just like the name of this PLAVE song. This work was first published on a platform dedicated to new web novels. It was serialized for more than a year, and a fandom called Chroma grew around it. The webtoon is about investigating criminal organizations against the backdrop of a cyberpunk dystopian world. Due to worsening financial circumstances, the web novel platform service was terminated and the serialization was suspended. But that's not all. As of now, we actually know a lot more about Bambi and Ina's webtoon than any of the others. But first, if these webtoons have long been discontinued and wiped off the internet, aren't you curious where I even found the info about them? I hope you are, because before I go into further detail about Chroma Drift, we need to talk a little bit about LMS and their findings. Let's look at the homepage of their website. LMS, or Lost Media Society, is an unofficial club of Songhee Arts High School that tracks down, excavates, and investigates lost works of art. We uncover and analyze lost materials that are now only legends. This semester, LMS will investigate the works of the missing artist 3v3R. We ask for your participation and suggestions. Thanks to the effort of these students, we know at least something about these webtoons. By the way, this school right here, Songhee Arts High School, is the high school PLAVE attend in the 6th summer music video. The first point of interest for us on this website is this hyperlink called 3v3R. What is 3v3R, or rather, who is it? They are a webtoon artist that debuted when webtoons started to become popular. The first serialized work, Today I Heal You, was influenced by simple daily cartoons that were popular at the time. In an interview, 3v3R described their debut work as a work to support my own dreams and a time to look back on everyday emotions. Since then, they established their own style of writing, publishing Heart of the Moon and Chroma Drift. However, they were criticized for their lack of stamina by their readers as all of their works were left unfinished. Currently, all works of 3v3R are lost, and it is believed the artist requested all records of their works to be erased. Sound familiar? Yes, 3v3R is the author that created all 5 PLAVE members. They are rumored to live overseas because of certain details in their works that differ from the experiences of Korean readers. Also, judging from the fact that all information about their works, including screenshots, was deleted, it is presumed that the author attempted to erase all traces of themselves. There is also rumor that 3v3R has stopped writing and is now learning coding. But what does the name mean? 3v3R revealed that they were having trouble coming up with a pen name for themselves when they noticed that there were 3 keys between V and R on a QWERTY keyboard, and they settled on the name 3v3R. But it's also worthwhile to consider some theories on the meaning of the pen name. The first is that the name was supposed to depict a cute emoji with outstretched arms. The second is that the number 3 in the name could be read as the letter E, spelling out ever. I will be using this pronunciation going forward to make my job a little easier. Now let's look at Eva's works. We've talked about the first 3 already, but what are the remaining 3? Heart of the Moon side story was theorized to have been released on the author's personal blog, but since there was no proof to back up this claim, it was determined to be a mere rumor. The 6th one is a martial arts webtoon that was never released, even though the author mentioned in an interview that it was a work in progress. Number 5 is slightly more interesting in my opinion. It's a science fiction drama webtoon called The Sixth Track, which is a name similar to the episode in Chroma Drift titled Track 6. Rumor has it that about 6 episodes of it were released in a small closed community group. However, the fans became suspicious when they noticed that the drawing style and other elements differed from other Eva's works. It was later discovered to be a fan impersonating Eva. This is all we know for sure, but doesn't it remind you of something? The 6th track, different drawing style. Nah, it must be just a coincidence, right? Okay, as intriguing as it all is, I promised to tell you more about Chroma Drift. So let's talk Chroma Drift. This is the only webtoon for which primary sources can be accessed, so we know a little bit more about it than the others. It seems that Chroma Drift was the reason for LMS's establishment. One of their members was chatting to generative AI, like ChatGPT, asking for some recommendations for media content that featured criminal organizations. One of the recommendations made by this ChatGPT was a webtoon called Chroma Drift. But the member had never heard of such a webtoon and suspected that ChatGPT made it up. So they asked about the webtoon again and whether it was a real work. It answered, yes, and it's very popular. But despite his best efforts, the member couldn't find anything on the internet. So the club began their investigation by typing major keywords into various search engines. Finally, they managed to find a post on a question platform. In that post, the user remembers reading a web novel with a pink-haired detective and an X-Men kind of vibe, but they can't remember the name of it. Someone answered them. It's a webtoon, Chroma Drift. So it existed after all, once upon a time. Then, using their club's dedicated search engine, LMS members looked into the web pages related to Chroma Drift, and they found a page containing a few chapters of the now defunct Chroma Drift webtoon. It was being serialized on a web novel platform that, at some point after its conception, had added a section for reading webtoons as well. Hence why the user who asked about the story on the aforementioned website confused it for a web novel. Although the webtoon's banner and its episode thumbnails are missing, we can still read the titles of the episodes along with their summaries. Here is the synopsis of Chroma Drift. In 2135, an illegal potion called Chroma begins to spread in the commercial hub and megacity state of Maracaibo. Since there is no information on Chroma, the investigation has been halted for several years. With nobody volunteering for this difficult investigation, the Maracaibo Central Investigation Bureau assigns the Chroma case to two troublemaking detectives, Uno and Bambi. Let's look through the episode list as well. Episode 1, New Partner. The Joint Police Agency assigns a silver-haired detective to the Maracaibo Central Investigation Bureau, which is dealing with an illegal potion issue. Bambi, a seasoned Maracaibo detective, dislikes his new loud companion. Episode 2, Dream Team. Bambi and Uno infiltrate a location where they were tipped off that Chroma could be bought. However, due to their horrible teamwork, the mission results in failure. Uno becomes suspicious of Bambi after he sees him exchange looks with a member of the criminal organization during the operation. Episode 3, Enhanced Human. Bambi gathers information alone, excluding Uno, in order to locate Terry, a key member of the criminal organization who only appears in rumors. Known as an enhanced human, Terry possesses powerful electrical abilities, which are illegal. Episode 4, The Ninth Child. Uno secretly looks through Bambi's investigation files. He discovers a file that contains Terry's identity and recalls the dark past of the enhanced human laboratory. This post, with the info about Chroma Drift that the members of LMS have managed to find, is a huge success, with many people coming together to help out. With their tips, the main thumbnail images recovered, though very damaged and pixelated. LMS next looks up the name of the webtoon together with the names of the main characters and finds a comment section for one of the episodes of Chroma Drift called Episode 37, Kurenkai Report. These comments provide some insight as to what the plotline eventually came to and what kind of characters Bambi, Uno, and Terry were. One comment reads, describe Do Uno's feelings at having to catch his younger brother after he had been suspecting Bambi alone, 30 points. Another one reads, everyone, please zoom in on the picture of Uno and Terry at the end. A user under the name Maracaibo Research Institute provides us with a very valuable background of Uno's life. Was experimented on in a laboratory until the age of 15, dreamt of freedom and survived, gained that freedom but lost everything instead. The price was too high. Suffered from nightmares because of point 1 and 2. Began living life to make amends because he thought he'd lost everything, but there was one more thing he was about to lose. Terry Vision Antenna also gives us some insight into Terry's background, writing, couldn't even find freedom. Even teammates like these treat enhanced humans like monsters. You call it freedom to live while hiding your identity? No wonder Terry turned evil. The last bit of information about Chroma Drift that LMS managed to find is a portion of an interview Eva gave a while back. Some of their responses provide more information on the characters and their dynamics, as well as the plot. I won't read the whole thing, only the relevant parts, but you can pause to read everything. Since the characters are three-dimensional, I think the difficulty in predicting their actions is another attractive aspect. Perhaps this is why, if you read the comments in the beginning, there are so many speculations about who will backstab. Because I drew Marakai as such a dystopian world, I think the characters in this world need to have complete trust in each other. I think I like characters who grow and overcome their past traumas. Uno, who is strong but loses control when he's angry, Bambi, who is a bright elite detective but grieves over the loss of his co-workers, and Terry, a supporting character who seeks revenge on the cruel world by using the same weapon. I try to focus on how Bambi and Una learned to understand each other despite their bickering. Their investigative approaches are completely different, but they do complement each other in some ways. Uno has a soft heart, so he needed to have a partner who could manage his emotions, such as Bambi, in order to negotiate with Terry. But interestingly enough, Bambi actually may have been more fixated on appeasing and winning Terry over than Uno. So I think Terry was an appealing supporting character who helped the two overcome their respective pasts and move forward. And that's all we know about Chroma Drift and other webtoons by Eva. You might have noticed that I haven't mentioned Hamin much. There is a reason for that. Hamin is a little different from the other members. Let me start from the beginning. In the beginning, there was nothing. Oh, wait, no. One day, someone awakens inside of Asterum's space of life. He's alone and lost, but through a crack that formed in the space between Asterum and Terra, he establishes contact with someone on Earth. That person is a programmer named Developer A, not their real name, who used to be a webtoon artist and created a few beloved webtoons before giving up on their dream and abandoning their projects. They start communicating, and Developer A remembers all the characters they'd drawn in the past: Yejun, Noah, Bambi, and Uno. They learn from Hamin about Kylum and Asterum and about the space of life. They realize that the characters they'd created are on the verge of disappearing as a result of the decline in their popularity caused by the discontinuation of their respective webtoons. They devise a plan. Developer A, aka Eva, writes a code that can summon Yejun, Noah, Bambi, and Uno to Asterum, while Hamin collects the star shards, the debris from the cube meteors, to help with the process. Remember, these star shards have some mysterious powers. They are successful in their plan, and all future PLAVE members meet in Asterum beneath the starry sky. But wait, there's something missing. How is it that Hamin is alive? His webtoon, which was going to be a martial arts webtoon, remember the sixth one I kind of skipped over, was never serialized. It was in development when it was abandoned. Therefore, it never got any love from people on Earth, which means that Hamin could not have been born yet. Attention! The next section is highly speculative. The only official information presented here are Developer A's diary entries. Everything else is a theory. We don't have a diary entry in which Developer A describes how exactly Hamin manages to contact him for the first time. According to Anon magazine, he receives this written message from Hamin, but according to Developer A's diary, he receives it a little more than 2 months after the first entry available to us, which already mentions Hamin and Developer A's confusion over his existence. In the same entry, he mentions that a Hamin image was created, so Hamin most likely first got into contact with Developer A via image alone. No sound, no movement, no writing. He notes that the frequency of these Hamin images has been increasing, so he decides to investigate how a third party could create images of Hamin when Hamin was never released to the public. He develops a language model that can explain the learning process of each layer. So, what is all this, I hear you ask? Honestly, I couldn't comprehend this myself when I first saw it, because my brain is just not wired to understand this type of stuff. But with the help of this person and my 2 remaining brain cells, I think I figured it out. Let's start from the top. DB most certainly means database. In this case, anything related to Hamin that a machine can take and learn from. Connected to the database is Training Generator, the not-so-perfect version of the final project that is still in its learning stage. Next is Generator. This is the completed machine that takes information from the database and the Training Generator to create images of Hamin. Training Generator and Generator are linked to metadata. Metadata refers to all the intermediate information produced by both generators while they work. that is to say their thought process as they create images of Hamin. Machine-generated metadata is notoriously difficult for humans to understand. That's why Developer A develops an AI model to assist him. Here, this AI model is called XAI. He trains it first, and then by combining all the info, he should be able to determine how these Hamin images were created. And he succeeds! 2 months later, the model he developed produced results in the form of a package file that he interprets into text format. He gets this message, but he has no idea what it means because he's never seen these letters before. We know that this is the Asterum language and can translate this line using the Asterum language chart that was included in the membership. It says, "Hello, I am Hamin." Presumably, Developer A also translates this phrase as Hamin shares a lot of information with him. This is also where it gets confusing. He sees the Asterum language for the first time on January the 21st, but a week earlier, on January the 14th, he writes in his diary that through conversation with Hamin, he's learned about the fictional worlds of Asterum and Caligo, meaning that Hamin and he already talked somehow. Did they do it in Korean, English, or some other type of language, like a coding language for example? Or did they communicate through gestures and images? I don't know, and it's the only detail that doesn't really make sense. I feel like I'm missing something, because it's so obvious the timeline doesn't match that I don't think Vlast would have messed it up. Please tell me in the comments if you know the explanation for this. All of this to say that Hamin may very well turn out to be AI, or a product of AI, or at least some type of a robot. That explains his powers like coding and being able to contact someone on Earth, and also the fact that he is the only member of PLAVE that can learn and adopt special effects of other members. Because, of course, AI learns from the information input into it. You've probably seen these fellas hanging around the boys. They are called Caligo. But who are Caligo? Do you still remember what I said about Asterum and Caligo? I hope you do, because we're going back to these two planets for a little bit. Caligo is a planet where the characters who receive love from people on Earth live, but it's not just a planet. Caligo is said to be a being with a will of its own. Caligo resurrects some of the characters that faded out of existence due to them losing affection of people on Earth and uses them to form its army. Caligo is the name given to these nameless soldiers who have lost their individuality and just obey Caligo's orders. The word Caligo, no surprises here, also has Latin roots. Caligo in Latin means darkness. The main role of Caligo is to subdue characters that run wild when their supporting cast disappears, or to suppress conflicts that may arise between characters. The reason they are after PLAVE is unknown as of right now. I want to go back to Chroma Drift for a little bit here. We don't know how many episodes there were in total prior to the webtoon's discontinuation, but in the post where they provide the screenshots of the comment section under episode 37, LMS writes, "It seems that there were more tragic twists and drama in the middle than expected," indicating that episode 37 was closer to the middle than the end. Why do I even mention this? Well, I think we're all very curious who this person is. The one Uno seems to recognize in the beginning of the Dash music video. I've seen people speculate that their side profile looks like Hamin or Bumby, which can be true, but I think it's Terry. He grew up in the same facility as Uno, and they were both experimented on, but Terry escaped and turned bad while Uno started working on the side of justice. They know each other very well and appeared to have a pretty strong connection through the plot, so of course Uno would recognize him even after not seeing him for a long time. Plus, he zapped Uno with electricity, and he seemed to be the only one who used his powers along with a gun. He took out Uno, Yejin and Bambi each in one strike, which would make sense if he stayed an enhanced human even after he was reborn as Caligo. The parallel between his and Uno's powers in this scene is also quite suspicious, don't you think? It's like they have the same powers, but one is fire and the other is electricity. That checks out if it is actually Terry, because he and Uno were brought up in the same laboratory. Why was Uno happy to see him though, if Terry was the antagonist? I have two theories about the potential reason. First, Uno was just glad to see someone from his world who he thought had disappeared long ago. Second, by the end of Chroma Drift, Terry changed. You know, your classic, an antagonist is saved by the protagonist and turns good, or something of the sort, and they became friends. This is just a theory of mine, but I think it's pretty plausible. So, how did Caligo appear in Asterum then? PLAVE were assisted by the programmer from Earth and mysterious star shots. It's highly unlikely that Caligo used the same method. Well, they didn't. Remember these little guys in the Dash music video? They are the answer. Even prior to PLAVE's arrival at Asterum, Kylum had been running numerous experiments to transfer Caligo to this planet, but during the process many lifeforms perished due to failed transfers. Quadruple M, or MMMM, seems to be the first successful experiment subject in Kylum's attempts. During the incomplete transfer process, the data became entangled, which is believed to have given MMMM the ability to instantaneously move through space. After PLAVE's arrival in Asterum, the only data transferred from Kylum was MMMM. Following that, it seems that Kylum discovered a stable method for transferring characters. Since MMMM's appearance, many Caligo have been appearing in various regions of Asterum to gather information. So these guys we see at the end of Wait for Love music video are probably there to gather information on PLAVE in preparation for the attack that happens later in the Dash music video. It's curious that MMMM didn't find PLAVE straight away but only right before the Caligo attack. Was it a coincidence or was it deliberate? After all, they had been said by Kylum. MMMM were also originally introduced on the LMS website, however in a somewhat cryptic way. Between the members' uploads regarding their ongoing Chroma Drift investigation, there appeared these two posts titled Others, LMS Regular Meeting Record 1 and 2, which, when downloaded and opened, reveal some codes. The first one translates to I am in the Ferris wheel in the game machine. The second one translates into Latin words. In English it says, I have reached so many moons endowed with scattered images, now the image is complete. And there was also a post on the bulletin board named, in Korean, MMMM, which stands for MMMM. If you zoom out, you can see the outlines of MMMM's names. What does it mean though? Your guess is as good as mine. It could be just Vlast using the website as a fun way to introduce new content. They teased the island music video with posts of various puzzles on here too, and it turned out to be some kind of a welcoming ceremony for new members of LMS. It could be that MMMM are the LMS members and want to help us, PLAVE fans, learn more about them. Or maybe MMMMs are very good hackers and are just toying with all of us. But then why aren't LMS members deleting these posts? I expect we will find out sooner rather than later. But for now, this is it. Wow, that was a lot. Are you okay there? Don't worry, I feel the same. I can't believe I actually managed to finish this video. I am sure that there are some things that I have missed or some things I might have misinterpreted or mistranslated, but I did my best and this video is already long enough. But if you have anything to add, please leave it in the comment section. I would love to read it. Lastly, some of the information, especially the theories I present in the video, may get disproven later on. If you're watching this video several weeks or months after its release, I implore you, please check the pinned comment for any corrections. I hope you enjoyed the video. Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye. Stand play.